Hello, darling. How are you? Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. I was muted for a second though. I'm good. How are you?
It looks so beautiful. I haven't seen you in so long. It feels like ages.
Yeah, it's been it hasn't been that long when you think about it, but it does feel like it's been a long time. I feel like I've been away from Durham for a long time.
Absolutely. So the way these things work is I'm just going to ask you one simple question and we'll just build upon that question. So I ask
Okay.
you to tell us what your name is, and tell us anything that will help us get to know you.
Okay. My name is Marnishia Jernigan. I'm originally from Detroit, but I've been gradually moving south all of my life. So I graduated high school, left Michigan to go to Ohio State. Then from there, I went to Duke and moved to Durham for law school. And since graduating law school, I've been in Atlanta. So just been gradually moving south.
Yep, a world traveler now, huh?
hmm
Exactly. Um, so where are your parents?
Sorry, your audio got a little bit mixed up for a second.
Where are your parents?
Oh, both of my parents are back in Michigan.
How often do you see them?
Um, I see my mom like 2 or 3 times a year.
Mhm.
My father, I don't see him often at all. Usually when I actually go back home.
Okay. Do you have brothers and sisters?
No, I'm an only child, so
Spoiled, is that what the right word is?
I wouldn't say all that, but
Uh,
I'm pretty sure my mom would. So
yeah. Um, Tell us about school. So tell us your migration from Detroit to Atlanta. Tell us about school. What are some of your experiences? Anything that you can share with as you made these different journeys to different locations.
okay, so I went to undergrad at Ohio State, obviously, which was it was it was a really it wasn't really a difficult choice, but it was an interesting choice because I had intended to like get as far away from home as I could when I got a chance to go away to college. But from Detroit to Columbus, it's only a 3-hour drive, so I ended up staying pretty close to home.
Mhm.
Um, I enjoyed my time at Ohio State, but I worked through most of it. So there was a point where I had 3 jobs. I had 2 jobs at one point. I was always working. So I feel like my undergrad experience is a little bit different than most people because I didn't have a ton of on campus time. I was like working overnight and all that. So um, yeah, but law school is drastically different, obviously, because nobody was working during law school. So being at Duke was a very different experience, and it was also a very different experience just coming from the Midwest to the South, because Durham is very much the South. Like it's very Southern. Like everyone's super nice, at least on the outside. But yeah, it was very different moving from like the Midwest and that whole like college town atmosphere to Southern Durham, and like even honestly even just the trees, because we don't have trees like that in Detroit. We don't have trees like that in Columbus for real. So everything was drastically different. I'm not sure if that answers your question
It did.
specifically, but
It did. It did. So at Ohio State, what was the makeup of students, male to female, and the different ethnicities?
I think that the male to female split is fairly even at Ohio State. I'm pretty sure it's like 50 something and 50 something. Like I don't think it's that much off at all. But as far as the racial and ethnic makeup, it's it's a lot. Like um there's a lot of differences. So for the Black community, I know we're always kind of teetering around 5%,
Mhm.
maybe a little bit more than 5%. And I'm not sure really about how the other makeups fit, but I know that it's largely white. Like, it's definitely a predominantly white institution. And I think the Black community at Ohio State does do a great job of like making it feel like there's more of us than there actually are. But there were definitely times where you could feel sort of yourself being a minority, yourself being just one of a few, especially when it comes to like classroom makeups and stuff like that. I was always in class with like one or two other Black people if I was lucky. And usually there was a couple of times where it was just me, but those were like really small classes. Yeah, but I think that's one thing about Ohio State that I do love, is that the Black community does kind of have a really solid group. Mm-hmm. So Black OSU has always been like as soon as I came in, like I came in on my first day knowing people from meeting them on Twitter using like Black OSU hashtags. Mm-hmm. So I had friends within that community before I even stepped foot on campus. And I think once you get there, it's easy to kind of get involved with them and all of that. And I started college at a really interesting time because it was right around the time of Trayvon Martin stuff. Mm. And so we actually had an incident on campus my freshman year of undergrad where someone had spray painted "Long Live Zimmerman" on the side of the Hale Center, which is our African American Cultural Center. Mm-hmm. And that was like, it was kind of a culture shock for a lot of people who really just weren't expecting to feel like that on their own college's campus. And I think that for me was my first experience with like organizing and protesting and all of that. And it came so quick because it was like, I've been on campus for a couple of months and now this is what we're fighting for. Now I'm on campus fighting to be on campus, basically, to feel comfortable here.
Yeah. Was the faculty makeup any different from the student makeup?
I think the faculty makeup might even be worse because I cannot remember having too many people of color teaching me at all. Aside from maybe student teachers or like people who might have been like teachers' aides and things like that. We'd have a few of them, but for the most part, it was largely like a white faculty. There were a lot of people coming from different countries, mm-hmm. and those were usually the people of color that I saw teaching my classes. It's really interesting because a lot of, like, I was a political science and criminology double major, mm-hmm. and my focus was kind of on race and crime. And so even taking those kind of classes that fit into my interests, I still was finding myself with white professors, and particularly with white professors who didn't really understand the material that they were teaching 100%. And I found myself having to like always be the one like, hey, no, that you're not going to say that and get away with it. We're not going to just not check that.
Right.
So it was interesting, but yeah, you could definitely feel the difference.
So when they painted the Zimmerman words on the Black students building, mm-hmm. what was the outreach from the university as a whole? Did you feel like they came together to support and to address that, or was it just kind of swept under the rug?
I think it felt like it was mostly us, which is kind of to be expected because we all had like very emotional responses, mm-hmm. and like it was mostly just students and some Black faculty helping us kind of organize and get together. But I definitely think that once we got organized and got together and put our messages together, the administration was fairly receptive. Mm-hmm. I do think that had it not been for that push from us, then we probably wouldn't have seen the response that we saw. Mm-hmm. But I do think that once we got together and were able to kind of say, hey, here's how we feel about this, like, y'all need to do something about this, then we kind of got a little bit of a response, but it was more performative than anything.
Mhm.
It felt like because they knew we were sharing it on social media and they knew that the news had come and done a story and all that stuff, that they were kind of reacting based on optics and what people were going to see, because it didn't really feel like much of a change, because we were on campus doing the same thing like a couple of years later with Mike Brown's death.
Right.
So I personally don't feel like I saw much of a change, but I think we did at least feel heard at the time.
Okay. So now you've graduated from Ohio State, and I believe it's the Ohio State. Is that the proper way to say it? Not
Yes,
Ohio
the
State.
Ohio State University.
I've always liked that about the name. So now you're at Duke. Walk me through what 3 years at Duke was like, both as a student, as a Black or brown student, your faculty, your interactions with people. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, so my experience at Duke was like, it was kind of, I don't know, I kind of felt like a fish out of water sometimes, because even the other people of color who were in my classes with me, they had very different backgrounds than me. Like for me to be coming from Detroit and like growing up how I grew up and where I grew up, and making it to a top law school, a private institution at that, and like being around these people who grew up with money and who grew up with privilege and who grew up with all kind of things that I cannot relate to at all, it was just like, it was a shock. And it didn't really hit me until I would be in classes with them and listening to sort of their opinions and their experiences shaping the kind of things they would say in class, and the way that they would answer things, and the way that they would think about things. Mm-hmm. And that for me was the biggest kind of barrier for me to get over, because it was like, it kind of forced me to question, like, how did I get here? How, like, why am I here with these people who are nothing like me? Like, do I actually belong here? And I felt like that for most of my time at Duke. But luckily, there are people like you and people like Trina Jones who are right there whenever I or other people, like other members of BALSA, were feeling things like that. We kind of always had you guys to kind of look at us and be like, y'all are doing good. Y'all are supposed to be here. Y'all are meant to be here. Like, feel that, live in that, and remember that in everything you do here. Like, this is y'all space, claim it. You are here for a reason. And I think that is really why I was able to get through Duke, because everything else, everything outside from the people, was very good at convincing me that I did not actually belong there. Mm-hmm. And I think that might just be a product of legal education in general, because it's just not as flexible as I think it should be, and it doesn't really lend itself to different experiences. So people from backgrounds that don't necessarily fit into like this straight track through great undergrad school, great law school, all of that stuff, people who kind of take a different path, mm-hmm. It doesn't really, our voices don't necessarily fit into the way that the law is taught, I think. And so I felt that, but luckily I had people who looked like me and who felt like me, who were there to tell me like, hey, you belong here and you should know that. But I do feel like I can see how other people, like, I could see, like, that's my worry for other Black people coming into Duke or coming into anywhere like Duke, honestly, and not having that. Because I don't know if I would have been able to make it through without that, because that was the most important thing to me the whole time there.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any interactions with the administration while you were at Duke Law? And were they
I
supportive?
did. I when we got the new dean, Dean Abrams, when she came in, she actually came and sat and talked with some of the students from our critical race theory class with Professor Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed to be, we all kind of felt bad because the people in that class were kind of a little bit more militant than other folks in the school. So the crowd that she had a conversation with, we were all like, it was like none of us were holding anything back.
Mm-hmm.
None of us were trying to sugarcoat things. We were all just like, nah, this needs to change. This needs to change. This is ridiculous. This should not happen. And she like, you could see that she came in being very receptive and she was taking notes and everything. But then once the conversation got really deep and we all kind of got active in the conversation, she was kind of like, her eyes got big and like, she was like, okay, this is a lot. And I think the reason why was that there aren't a lot of voices like ours, and there aren't a lot of people who are going to agree with us necessarily, and there's not a lot of people who, even if they do agree with us, who are going to present it to her in that type of way. Mm-hmm. But I think we all appreciated the fact that she was willing to sit down and listen to us and really take time to kind of see where there was room for change and see where we felt like there was room for change, instead of just kind of doing things that look good or sound good. She was really trying to listen to us and talk about our experience. Well, that was my 3L year, so I didn't. Yeah. Was it 3L year? I think so. So I didn't really get to see if she put any action behind any of the words, but she seemed really receptive, and that was more than we had seen before. So it felt good to us to even be able to have that conversation, especially it was like her first or second week. So the fact that she was willing to put time into her already obviously busy schedule just to sit down and talk to a critical race theory class about what being Black or being brown at Duke Law felt like and what we thought needed to change was huge for us.
That's wonderful. Between Ohio State and Duke, have you ever felt unsafe in your person, like you would be in some kind of physical harm or something could hurt you, maybe, interrupt or impact your life negatively, even to the point that it may be death or anything like that would be concerned for you, for your person?
Not necessarily on campus, but there was a point in Durham where, because my roommate and I, we would take the bus, mm-hmm. and so our bus stop was like a little bit, it was like on the very edge of campus, so we would have to like walk a little ways up this pretty dimly lit street to get to the law school. And right after 45 was elected, we were kind of terrified to make that walk, mm-hmm. because people were feeling so empowered to be like racist and malicious, and we were both terrified. Like, we Ubered to class for like a week and a half just because our classes were so early that we would have been basically walking in the dark, mm-hmm. to get to the law school, and we were like, no, yeah. this doesn't feel good. Yeah. And there was, at one point, like, we lived downtown Durham, and there was that like Klan rally or march or whatever that was supposed to happen down there, and I think that made me angry more than it made me scared. Mm-hmm. But that is probably just a product of who I am. Yeah. But yeah, I'm much more likely to be angry and frustrated than I am to be afraid. But definitely that I definitely have had to sort of have those thoughts. I think like most Black people have to have that forward thinking mentality about, let me not put myself in a position where I would be unsafe because of my skin color, because there are always those opportunities. Like you're always like one decision away from doing that. Like even just in regular life, like there's like I got pulled over the other day in Atlanta, and I was like, oh, what is happening? I knew I wasn't doing anything crazy. I had made like a bad lane change or something, but I was like freaking out because realistically I have to make sure that I didn't do anything to make this man feel uncomfortable, to make him suspicious or anything. And my heart is just like racing through my chest, and I've had those feelings on campus at both Ohio State and Duke, but not necessarily because of anything other than the world that we live in generally. It wasn't really necessarily anything campus specific. I think if anything, there's nothing in place on campuses to prevent that. So there's nothing that I felt was protecting me from the outside world just by being on campus. Mm-hmm. Like when I was in Durham, I would definitely try to always wear my Duke Law stuff, mm-hmm. just in case. Right. So people knew I was like, they would see me and not be like, oh, who is this? Who's this person? And that didn't work. Yeah. Like I was trying and pretending that would make a difference, but that didn't work because I could be wearing a Duke Law sweater, mm-hmm. large, bold print. And if I say anything about law school, people would still ask me like, oh, you go to Central? Like, and I'll be like, no, sorry to disappoint you. But so I think that like your question just got me thinking about what college campuses could do to make us feel more safe than we feel in the regular world. But I definitely, I didn't feel any more safe than I did in my regular life. I still felt like a Black person walking the street, regardless of whether I was wearing full Ohio State gear or full Duke gear. I still feel like the same Black woman I am anywhere I am, and I still have to take the same precautions, and I still have the same worries and the same fears and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now you're in Atlanta. So you've graduated mm-hmm. from law school, passed the bar, and you're an attorney. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
It's interesting. Atlanta's an interesting place. Atlanta's an especially interesting place to be a Black woman because there's a lot of Black people in Atlanta, but it's like, I feel like a lot of the time, if I'm talking to other attorneys, especially, whether they're white or they're Black, I feel like I'm trying to prove myself as a Black woman. And I think, sadly, a lot of the Black folks who are not even just attorneys, just a lot of the Black people in Atlanta in general, kind of have this idea of like their career success being able to sort of elevate them beyond the typical Black person. And so you have these people who are prepared to look down on you immediately upon impact, and you have to combat that from non-Black people just generally. And then I think because Atlanta is so Black and because it's such a good place to be a young Black professional specifically, there are a lot of young Black professionals who have decided that the best thing about them is the fact that they are a young professional. Yeah. Regardless of whether they're Black or not. The best thing about them is that they are a young professional, and other people who are not as professional or not as financially stable as them are to immediately be looked down upon. So I always kind of feel like when I'm meeting people in Atlanta, I have to prove myself. Okay. And it's like I have to throw out some accolades. I have to throw out shout out a degree or something before people in the room take me seriously. And I feel that when I'm in a room of white people, and I feel that when I'm in a room of Black people. And that's basically the only negative thing that I feel about Atlanta, is like, I constantly feel like I'm having to prove myself, and I'm constantly like, my favorite parts of myself are not the things that I have to use to prove myself in Atlanta. Like, I have to brag about my job and the law firm that I work at and the degrees that I have. And those are not my favorite parts about myself. Those don't make me who I am. Those don't make me a good or bad person either way. So I'm always a little bit like frustrated by that, because like, those are not even the cool parts of me. So I don't like having to put those forward first before anything else, because those are not even the interesting things. Those are like the things that make y'all accept me because it sounds like y'all. Those are the things that make all of us the same, and that's not fun for me.
And you're tired of doing that over and over again.
I'm exhausted by it. I don't even tell people what school I went to anymore. When I talk to people and I tell them I'm an attorney, I just like, yep, I'm an attorney. I don't tell them where I work. I don't tell them what kind of law I practice. I don't put any of that information out first, because I just feel like those are not the cool parts of me. So I don't want those to be the things that make people decide whether or not they're gonna like respect me or think of me as a valuable asset. Like, I don't think like that, and I don't want to be primarily around people who think like that. And I know professionally, like in the professional world, it's hard to get away from those type of people, but like personally, I avoid them at all costs.
Yep, yep. And you know, the thing about it, as a Black person, you know, we're going to talk about Mr. Floyd in a minute, but you know, like, we're tired. You know,
Exhausted.
we're tired. I mean, like, we're constantly having to prove that we belong here, constantly having to prove that we contribute, constantly having to prove that we are valuable, that we have an opinion, that we're not invisible, that we have a voice. We're tired. Your word exhausted is exactly correct. And you're still a baby. I'm 61 years old. I've been tired for almost my entire life, and I'm still tired.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it yesterday, I think, actually, and I was talking to someone about it, and I was just thinking about like Ayanna Stanley Jones.
Mm-hmm.
When she was shot by the police in 2010, I was in high school, and I was in 10th grade, and her cousin was like someone who lived in my neighborhood, and we rode the school bus together. And I remember going to school the next morning and having to like ask her like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? She's like bawling her eyes out. And it's because she lost her younger cousin. Like, because I had seen something on social media saying that she would be graduating high school this year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can remember that vividly. I can remember being hurt by that, because one of my friends from school was directly hurt by that. Like, I remember that being the first sort of instance of, wow, this is ridiculous. Like, this shouldn't happen. It was so close to home that it was like the first one that really, really hit me. And I was maybe 15. Mm-hmm. And I cannot remember a year since then. Like, I'm going to be 26 this year, and I can't remember a year since then where I haven't vividly felt someone's pain, like the pain of someone Black losing their life for no reason, because of how public it all is. Like, Ayanna Stanley Jones, and then Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin, and all of those, like, it's been every year since, there's been at least one name. There's been at least one, like, 2, 3, 4 names at a time. There's always a different hashtag, and it's always happening. And it has been so constant that I can't even recall one single year where I just didn't have to feel that for anybody.
Yeah. So let's talk about Mr. Floyd. First, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about 8 minutes and 46 seconds?
I haven't watched the video because I just don't have it. I just don't have it in me, because I know what it's going to be like. I watched the Eric Garner video, and that was too much for me. But it's like the 8 minutes and 46 seconds, it's just, it's not hard to believe because of the reality of the world that we live in, but it's just like, it's disgusting, because it's just like, how can you sit there for that long and people are yelling at you, hey, he can't breathe, get off of him. This man is calling out for his mother. And 8 minutes and almost 9 minutes, none of your humanity kicked in and said, hey, let me at least ease up a little bit. Let me at least back up a little bit. Let me adjust, maybe. Like, let me move around. Like, it's just like, it's ridiculous. And it's especially frustrating given the fact that we have the Eric Garner video. Like, you know that this can kill people. Mm-hmm. There's no way. I cannot believe that there's any cop in this country who hasn't seen that video, who hasn't at least heard that story.
Yeah.
You know that this can kill someone. Yep. You know that we were out here for a year and a half wearing I Can't Breathe shirts. Mm-hmm. You know this.
Right.
And you knew it for 8 minutes and 46 seconds that you sat on this man. And it's like, he didn't even get up until like EMS came or whatever. And it's like, the fact that they even knew to call the paramedics. You don't call paramedics normally when you're arresting someone. That's not just a normal part of an arrest. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you did that, the fact that somebody had the wherewithal to be like, let me call the paramedics, let the paramedics come, and you saw the paramedics and was like, you know what, let me get up because they're here for him. I know they're here for him. Like, you knew that you were hurting this man. Exactly. Like, you knew.
Yeah.
You knew exactly what was happening to him the whole time.
Right.
And it's just like, what part of your heart, like, let you do that and just let you carry on and let you feel good enough to get up and put that same uniform on again? Like, you were going to go back to work and keep doing this and keep handling whatever. Like, I think it was like a counterfeit $20 bill.
That's what they say. We're not even sure if it really was true.
It's like, you don't even, what are you stopping him from doing by kneeling on him like this for 9 minutes?
Right.
Stopping him from going back in the store and buying something else? Like, you're not preventing anyone from being hurt. He's not trying to hurt any of y'all. He's not trying to fight any of y'all. This is a big man. If he wanted to hurt you, he could have hurt you. We would have saw it on the video. Mm-hmm. He could have done that. But he wasn't doing that. He wasn't trying to do that. You did this because you felt empowered by not only this badge and this uniform, but by the other cops standing around you saying, okay, that's cool. Yeah, just back up to the crowd and, like, you're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like, it's disgusting, because you always hear, like, I even before law school, I'm a huge fan of, like, true crime stuff. So I listen to a lot of, like, true crime podcasts and stuff like that. And they always say, like, it takes maybe like 4 minutes to strangle someone or 4 minutes to, like, drown someone. Just basically 4 minutes without oxygen is enough to kill you.
Right.
You sat there with your knee in this man's neck for almost 9 minutes. Almost double the amount of time. That means for at least half of this time, you had a limp, lifeless body underneath you, and you couldn't feel any of that in your spirit. Not even just physically feeling it. Like, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. I have one more question, and then I'm going to leave the rest of the time. We have about 4 minutes, so I'm going to leave the rest of the time for you. But first, I want to ask you. So Mr. Floyd was killed about 3 weeks ago, and last Friday in Atlanta. a black man was killed
Mm-hmm.
because, and I'm not even sure why, because he's supposed the way the story is told, he took the taser out of somebody's hand and was running away. Not, and then they said he
Mm-hmm.
turned around and aimed it at him. I don't even know how to process that, but we're protesting and we're marching and we're making all these things, and yet and still within the same window of Mr. Floyd's death, there's another black man killed.
Mm-hmm. So I have seen parts of that video. I haven't seen the part where he's shot because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to consume any more of that. But all of the video leading up to it is him talking, and he's talking to the officers, and he's like, yeah, I'm drunk, like I parked here and fell asleep because I'm drunk and I don't want to drive and be in violation of anything. Like, he literally says that I don't want to be in violation of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to sit here. If I need to walk, like, I can walk to my sister's house. She lived right over here. And he was trying to do everything right. And it's like, everyone, like, the most annoying thing since all of the protests have started are the people who are like, burning it down isn't right. That's not right. We shouldn't do it this way. Like, you got to do things right. And it's like, even if we do things right,
Still turns out
it doesn't work for us.
right.
What they tell us is the right way to do it, it doesn't work for us.
Right.
Because they don't want us to do it at all. Because they don't want us to exist at all. So it's never going to be enough for us to change the way that we do things. They don't want us doing it at all. They don't want us to be here. They don't want us to be around. They don't want that. And it's like, the fact that the beginning of the video, the fact that that whole thing could progress into something where, first off, he was getting tased. Like, why do you even have your taser out? This man is clearly intoxicated. There's no public intoxication issue because he's sitting in his car. The car's not on. He's not operating a motor vehicle. He's doing everything that he thought was right. It's not even like he was just loitering in the Wendy's parking lot. He had gotten food from Wendy's.
Yeah.
He had gotten food from Wendy's and was eating the Wendy's in the Wendy's parking lot.
Right. Yeah.
He was doing everything exactly right. And I don't even know how they got to the point where they're trying to tase him, but if he's that drunk and you're trying to tase him, he's probably not going to be of sound mind to just be like, let me just get tased so nothing else happens. He's drunk. And it's like they recently, I don't know if you heard, but they recently canceled the show Cops.
Yeah, I heard that.
And it's like, every single episode of that show that I have ever seen is them peacefully arresting some drunk or high white person. And that can be drunk. I feel like they only choose the most outrageous cases and they only show us the most outrageous things, but it's like, super drunk, super high, doing something wild, running off, running around, chasing through alleyways and all this foolishness, but you couldn't let this man run 100 feet.
Right. I mean,
you had to shoot him. You had to shoot, like, you literally had to shoot to kill him.
Deadly force.
And it's like,
the other options.
It's ridiculous. And it's like, even the law says you can't shoot a suspect who's running away unless you think someone else is in imminent harm, like someone else is in imminent danger, like they're going to go hurt someone else immediately. That man wasn't about to go hurt someone else. He was talking about how his daughter's birthday, they were celebrating his daughter's birthday that weekend, and his daughter was just turning 3, and all of this. He's talking about how he went to visit his mom's grave that night. And it's like, this is not a man who is trying to hurt someone. He literally is doing everything that y'all say is the right thing to do.
And yet he's dead.
He even offered to, like, hey, I will just leave my car here and go to my sister's house and sleep it off.
Right.
If I can't do that, like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, he was trying so hard to just do what they wanted him to do. And the ridiculous part is they just wanted to mess with him.
Yeah.
Because if they really wanted, if they were concerned about his safety or anybody else's safety, they would have been like, you know what, lock up your car. We'll drop you off to your sister's house. You say it's right over here, we'll just drop you off.
Right. Yep.
If we see you coming back out, we see you driving again, we're taking you to jail. But for right now, let's get you somewhere safe and let's get you together. It's like, the officer is like, can I breathalyze you? The man's like, I mean, I told you I've been drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want to breathalyze him so that it can go on his record, so that you can put this on paper that he blew XYZ. You don't care about this man's safety. You don't care about any of that. And I think it just, that story was just one of the stories that like perfectly highlighted everything that is wrong with our policing. Like, all of it is so wrong. Because it's supposed to be, like, that type of call, that call to, hey, there's a man sleeping in his car, it's supposed to be about public safety.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be about making sure he can't hurt anyone and he can't hurt himself and no one can hurt him.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the way you handle that is not tasing this man. The way you handle that is not even harassing him for long enough that you had to tase him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not taking him to jail because he's not doing anything illegal. No one said you can't be in the Wendy's. The Wendy's wasn't closed or anything. Like, he went and got Wendy's and sat in the Wendy's parking lot. I've gone to Wendy's and sat in the Wendy's parking lot and eaten. Like, it's just, it's one of those things that makes me kind of look at the police and be like, who do you think you are?
Who they are. Who they've always been.
Exactly. And it's like,
putting us in our place.
We're tired of it.
We are tired of it.
We're tired of it because even the ones of us, and I'm going to be completely honest, it ain't me, but the ones of us who accept that there is a place for us to be put in, that ain't me. But even those ones are still, like, they shift the goalposts. Like, they tell us, this is how you need to behave. This is what'll keep you safe. This is how you be a good Black person. This is how you be a good person. And even the ones who go out of their way to fit into that little box, they're still like, no, not enough.
Right.
Not enough.
Yeah.
This is not enough.
Marnishia, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I am so glad I'm able to see you again because it's been such a long time.
Yeah, I'll have to come visit you when I finally make my way back to Durham.
I really would like that very much. Mm-hmm. And everything you say really resonates with me because you're very young. You're 26. I'm 61. I will tell you that what you're experiencing as a 26-year-old, I've been experiencing almost my entire life. And I hope you and those that are protesting and marching and writing and raising funds really do bring about change.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, I don't believe it will happen in my lifetime. Maybe in your lifetime, maybe in your children's lifetime, but I just don't see this really changing very much because I just think that we could go from George Floyd to Atlanta in less than 3 weeks. Says something about our society as a whole. Considering across the world has been marching and protesting, and yet within a 3-week span period, after we killed Mr. Floyd, we've killed someone else, and we're okay with it. You know, the thing that I always find strange about the law is the law is trying to make sure that they have all the evidence they can to convict someone, but there's so many loopholes. Every time I think about the law, I'm not a law student, thank God. And but I spent a lot of time in the law school, and I hear about the rule of law, the subjective nature of law. But really, it's what you said. No matter when you're even following the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, you could still end up dead. So thank you for this chat. Thank you for talking to me. If you want to talk again, please, we can.
Thank you. I would love to. I enjoyed this.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, Trina, Guy, Jim Coleman, Ebony, we miss you all very, very much. I can't speak for anybody else, but when I do talk to those folks, they talk about you and what a powerful class you guys were. And I was so impressed. And each time you came for dinner or each time you guys got together to hear your voices in unity was a proud moment for an old Black woman. So thank you again for doing this with me. Once it's converted, I will send it to you probably in the morning and
Okay.
look at it, make sure it looks okay. And if you approve it, we will upload it so you can look at it and see. And if you can, subscribe to the channel. You should look at Jim Coleman's. You should look at Bryant's, Jabrell's. They've been
I
exceptional.
actually started watching some of Bryant's and a little bit of Jabril's too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely I subscribed as soon as you sent me the link. So
yeah, absolutely. Because and somebody says, well, how long are you going to do this? I am going to do this either until I die or till there is change. Because, I'm really surprised to see those that have voices, Black, white, blue, green, and brown, talk. But there are those of us that are down here in the bottom who does not have a voice. They're telling Mr. Floyd's story now. Why wasn't his story told before he died?
Right.
And so that's what this channel is for, is for people to tell their story however they want to tell it, whether it's right, whether people agree with it. There's no consequence to me. It's just that your voice is heard. So thank you. Stay safe. And if I need a lawyer when I come to Atlanta, let me know. But I'm probably not going to get in trouble. I don't even drive fast anymore. So, I don't think I'm at risk unless they come in my house and think I'm somebody that I'm not. But thank you so much for this, and stay in touch.
Thank you. I definitely will.
Yeah. And please let me know if there's anything I can do for you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rochelle.
You're welcome, darling. Stay safe and tell your family I said hello.
Okay. You too. Bye.
Bye.